right, Nathan, here we are. We're going to record our Canada Day episode. Very exciting. We got a guest, fellow Canadian. Ben, come on in.
Hey, how you guys doing today?
Oh, we're doing great. Nathan, you ready to roll? You ready to do this?
Yes, Ben, I'm crushing your head. I'm crushing your head, you stupid flathead, you.
Oh yeah, that's from the sketches that Kids in the Hall did, right?
Yeah, it is. It's right from the show. Yeah. I'm a chicken lady. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So are you gonna do this for the whole episode today?
I might, because I have a cabbage forehead.
Maybe we should get our stuff together and just start this train a rolling here.
Hey Ben.
You know what? You
Ben?
better just
Yes?
answer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, just answer him.
There's a kid in my class, and he smokes, and he's bad.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not.
So let me tell you something.
Hey guys, it's Brendan here from the What Were They Thinking podcast, of course. So this section of the podcast, we had to cut out Nathan's Buddy Cole impression. So yeah. Anyway, back to the show.
My pen! You've got my pen!
Nathan, we don't have pens. Would you? We don't have pens. Just start the damn show.
Doom 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 doom.
You know when I pick a movie, that's when I'm under pressure now. The question always comes back to me, what were they thinking now? Whoa, what were they thinking? What were they thinking?
Oh yes, welcome to another fantastic, patriotic this time episode of What Were They Thinking? Being the delightful Canadians we are talking this week about Kids in the Hall, Brain Candy. But before I get rolling, I certainly must introduce my co-host. Right after I introduce myself, my name is Nathan, and you are?
I am Brendan, also from Canada.
Right, and we couldn't let this kind of be on its own because, I mean, the Kids in the Hall, it's a troupe. It's 5 guys. And now we couldn't get 5 guys, but we did manage to get one other Canadian because there was another Canadian, just one other Canadian that has a podcast. And he, of course, is a good friend that you may recognize from a previous episode, Ben.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm from the worst part of Canada.
You're not from Surrey.
Oh, okay. Second worst. My bad.
Oh, Etobicoke.
Jeez, let's just burn everyone.
Well, I could just sing "I've Been Everywhere" again.
Let's just move right along. Hey Ben, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, no problem, guys. I remember watching Kids in the Hall back when I was in high school. Stay up late, watch Comedy Network, catch the Kids in the Hall without my parents knowing.
See, I did something very similar, but I stayed up late to watch it on the CBC because I'm that old.
And I was also a Comedy Central rerun person. That's how I watched it as well.
Well, you know, as long as you watched it, because I mean, really, it is a cultural touchstone for Canadians.
They're kind of like Canada's response to like Monty Python, and I can't even think of an American sketch comedy troupe off the top of my head.
Broken Lizard.
They didn't have a show though.
No, but I mean, if we're talking about a comedy troupe, they were that. I'm not saying we didn't have to say a good one. I'm just saying they are a.
Ouch!
I'm not a fan.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, I think in a lot of ways, like Kids in the Hall, really just kind of epitomize, I think, what Canadian comedy was, where it married that sort of cynical, clever humor that you see in British comedy with the more crass kind of direct humor that you get out of the States in a way that I think was just very Canadian.
It's too cool for the room comedy, I think, is what I've always thought of it. Because it's like it's almost like it's giving that vibe off of like we're doing a show for us and it's funny to us, and if you don't think it's funny, oh well.
I think I think that's one of the things that kind of really attracted me to Kids in the Hall is because that the comedy was so out there, like in comparison to like what was, I don't know, considered mainstream or safe at the time. Like everybody I knew at the time was watching Saturday Night Live, and that they thought they were hip and happening and rebellious against their parents because we're staying up late to watch Saturday Night Live. Yeah. And I'm like, that's all fine and well. Saturday Night Live is a great show, but I was, staying up late to watch Kids in the Hall to see Kevin McDonald, dressed as a teabag, advising Dave Foley to, quote, go ahead, lick my bag. See, because he was dressed as a teabag, you see.
And I think the thing for me is I watched Kids in the Hall, but it was never late because it was just reruns. So they were on at like 6 o'clock in the evening or something.
Yeah.
With some censorship.
Well, that was the nice thing about watching them after midnight on the CBC, because the fun thing about Canada is, I believe it's either after 10 or after 11, but before 6 in the morning, anything goes. You can say or play anything on
live
the Canadian airwaves.
Murders on the air.
You get what I'm saying is in regards to the censorship.
Legitimately, when I was working security, one of the sites I worked at, the only channel we could get was CBC, and they were playing, I think it was like HBO's King Arthur series or something after 10 p.m. at night with full frontal nudity and everything.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yep. Because everybody thinks the CBC, and they think it's Canadian, it's tantamount to Canadian PBS, and which is kind of the case when you're watching on a Tuesday morning and your kids are watching the kids shows and stuff like that, and of course maybe some of the Fifth Estate and the like, but if you really dig deep enough into like the later hours of a CBC, you can get some really interesting stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So bring us in. We're talking about what? Kids in the Hall brain candy?
We are talking about Kids in the Hall brain candy. A criminally underrated movie, in my opinion.
Yeah. I was surprised when you guys invited me on for an episode of what were they thinking? And I watched the movie, and it's not bad.
Well, I mean, we'll get into it, much later in our segment where we do the critics and the audience. But the critics weren't fans of this. The movie actually only made $2.2 million. And there is some speculation amongst the kids in the hall that it's because they took kind of a hard stance on some of the more controversial or risque things that were in the movie, and because they refused to back down, they feel like Paramount may not have marketed the movie as fully as they could have. But it's a real easy story to break down. Plot. Our troupe, the Kids in the Hall, you know them, Kevin McDonald, Dave Foley, who's for some reason credited as David Foley.
He always had. I think he always was in the show too, because I always remember that the Daves I know sketch where he said some of us are Davids, and it's David Foley pointing to himself. So I think he did go by David in those years anyway.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's my only trivia, guys. So take that, enjoy it.
Bruce McCulloch, Mark McKinney, and Scott Thompson. They play several, various characters throughout. But our main character is Chris Cooper, who is incapable of a maniacal laugh and is secretly a Muppet. Nope, that's a different movie.
Oh, wait, I know. He tries to kiss Kevin Spacey.
Yeah, yeah.
No,
and then,
wait, no,
no,
not him.
he shoots. No, that's not it.
He drowns in a swamp. He gets gets eaten by an alligator. No, not him.
Oh, okay. It's Kevin McDonald as Dr. Chris Cooper.
The director of The Last King of Scotland. Gotcha.
Right. Interestingly enough, the film editor on this is named Christopher Cooper as well.
They named him after him apparently.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, it was intentional. Yeah.
That's great. Well, he plays a research scientist who's trying to develop a new antidepressant for. What was the name of the company again? It was.
I don't even know.
Yeah. Anyhow.
Rilla Cool or something like that.
Yeah. It's
Pfizer.
weird. It's weird because it's not one of those things that kind of you'd think that it would stand out and they would have done like maybe a fun nod to something else, but they didn't, which is kind of weird for them. But anyhow, he's developing this drug. Like I said, it's an antidepressant, and he works for a company that is headed by a rather evil big pharma guy who is in no way at all supposed to be Lorne Michaels.
No, definitely not.
The drug does work. They push it through without further testing, and well, hilarity ensues. And this time, I legitimately mean that
Because it's actually a comedy.
yeah,
Yes.
So many times we say it for like harrowing drama.
yeah.
No, I think it might be my age showing, but I felt like the pharma exec, even the fact that they named him Donald, I couldn't help but like read him as like a take on Donald Trump, and I'm like, but there's no way because like, Donald Trump was not the figure he is now back then.
No,
Well,
but
you talked about
definitely
he was definitely
Definitely
a
out there.
tycoon. Yeah.
yeah.
You know, he
I mean, I
definitely would have
think
been a business
Donald-
guy, unscrupulous.
Yeah, the shitty blonde hair.
And for those of you saying like, oh, he does a Lorne Michaels voice, what's that? Well, he's kind of doing Dr. Evil, essentially. If you don't know what
Yeah.
Lorne Michaels sounds like, it's kind of Dr. Evil.
Right.
But
So-
dive into how this movie starts, like The Big Bang Theory, Nathan.
Well, well, the whole universe was in a hot, dense state.
Ugh.
We open up on our narrator, who I believe is actually a character, cabbie from the original Kids in the Hall, played by Mark McKinney.
Wait, but I do want to say, that was a legitimate thing. I do actually think the opening is very similar to like the graphics at the beginning of the Big Bang Theory. There's like equations and the little like
Oh yeah.
symbols moving around.
Well,
It just reminded me a lot of it. I was like, did they just lift this?
What?
Wouldn't surprise me in the least.
No.
Yeah. The whole opening is done as vignettes, and like you said, it's narrated by this.
Yes,
Croatian
by
guy.
our cabbie, this guy right here.
Yeah.
He's telling the story about how everybody is, you know, kind of really happy and stuff right now, and the useless piece of shit back there. I tell you, I used to be. I knew I was an asshole, but I wasn't the only asshole, or words to that effect.
He kind of reminds me of the voice Mark McKinney's using. Kind of reminds me of Adam Sandler doing his like that character that's like, I bet you got really hairy balls.
Oh, the complete imbecile.
Yeah.
It actually kind of reminded me of his the goat.
I honestly did not know he was meant to be Croatian until he says that at the end of the movie. I thought he was going for like Quebecois, like a really offensive Quebecois accent.
That's what I thought too.
Yeah, he's got a super uplifting song that his mom used to sing to him.
You know, because when I was a little boy, my mother used to sing me a song. It went like this. Life is short, life is shit, and soon it will be over.
So
Yeah,
uplifting as we're
There's
going
a
into
series
it.
of vignettes, right?
Yep.
You've got the cabbie. You've got
That bleeds into the club suicide scene, where we have Bruce McCulloch doing his absolute best Glenn Danzig. And of course, you know, we get this interaction with this girl who, played by Mark McKinney, who I thought was going to when I originally saw this eons ago in theaters by myself. And when I say that, I don't mean I went alone to see it. I mean I was the only person in the theater watching it. When she's like there and like people are at the club are being like super morose, one girl's like burning herself with a cigarette, and she is way out of place. We don't get to really think about that too much, because then we move on to Scott Thompson playing Wally, who is a closeted, repressed homosexual man who was married with 2 kids. When I saw this originally, I thought that's kind of funny until I met several people like that over the years.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it's dark. Like, that's really sad, actually.
Yeah.
The thing with Kids in the Hall is, Scott Thompson, openly gay, they can get away with a lot of stuff that a lot of other... Because I think if he wasn't, we'd be like,
this is problematic.
This is a little iffy. But the fact that he is playing that role, the fact that he probably had a hand in writing that part, it gives it a whole other kind of lens, I guess.
And again, my age is showing here because I just going back a bit to the club scene with those sideburns and everything. I couldn't help but think of Matt Jackson from the Young Bucks.
Okay.
Bruce McCulloch just super kicking everyone.
Wrestling reference. Got it in.
Secured by our guest.
Bruce McCulloch couldn't super kick a chihuahua. He is a short man.
Yeah.
Put him in your pocket. But yeah, okay, so we get this little vignette where Wally is masturbating to gay porn, and it is the worst kept secret in his house.
Yeah, everyone knows.
Yeah, Mom comes home and she even asks, "Hey kids, where's your dad?" Both of them are upstairs masturbating to gay porn. She goes, "Again?" So
apparently the only person it's a secret to is him.
Well,
very repressed, yes. Also covers himself in water and says, "Oh, I just got out of the shower. Oh, honey, you're home."
I was gonna and he hugs her like super tight, like by doing that in some way, shape, or form, it's going to keep him make him hetero.
Yeah.
We cut from this to a couple of another couple of actual characters from the show. Bruce McCulloch as short man driving down the street with the stolen pet van, and Mark McKinney as his super loud and obnoxious girlfriend, who he's constantly cheating on. Yeah. And it was fun to see them. I think that was one of the big things of this movie. It was fun to see characters from the show in this movie. I just really wished a lot of them had played a bit more of a part within the movie.
Well, that's the thing, because I'm a casual fan, like having seen some episodes. So there were a lot of scenes in this opening where I was like, "Oh, is that all?" Like the couple's just arguing and then we're moving on. Like it didn't really play as well for me, I guess, because there wasn't like the recognizable, the recognition moment, I guess.
Fan service.
I definitely recognized a lot of the characters they brought in. I would say, I think the fact that they don't play such a major role is one of the things that makes this stand out from a lot of the other sketch comedy troupe movies that came out in the 90s. Just trying to think, like, you have Night at the Roxbury, you have Blues Brothers, you have Master of Disguise.
Blues Brothers famously. 2000.
Wayne's World.
Because a lot of them were about, they would take a character from their sketch comedy and then basically just try to draw it out to like an hour and a half long movie.
I am glad that they didn't go that route.
Yeah.
But I would have liked to have seen, some, a couple of different stories playing throughout. Because when I first heard that this was being made, I've got to go see this movie because it's going to be amazing. I knew right away. I was hoping that it was going to be a series of crisscrossing or overlapping stories with different characters throughout, not just one straight arc with one character for the entire movie, but kind of like how like Pulp Fiction, some of the stories that you're like the characters just kind of briefly interact with another character from another different portion of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
That sort of thing. That's what I was hoping was gonna happen.
See, that wouldn't have been bad at all. but I definitely would not have wanted to watch an entire hour and a half long Chicken Woman sketch.
Oh my God, or Cabbage Head. That though, I think I that's the thing with those characters. You can only take them in small doses.
I think that that's
Same thing with It's Pat.
Yeah, that's the hard thing with most sketch comedy movies. I mean, there are some that work, and the ones that don't are just because like you can't take this character beyond the breaking point. But like you said, that's not what they do with this movie.
No, we do get a transition from there up to a therapist's office, and during the transition, there's an old guy who looks like he's about to do himself in as you pass by his apartment window, and I was like, that should have been Bellini. Paul Bellini. It should have been Paul Bellini doing that. They do use him in this movie, but I felt it would have been great if he fit there because they would have got that reference right out of the way. Oh yes, the German guy in therapy speaking exclusively German to his doctor who doesn't understand German, which is I thought was delightfully hilarious, and he just goes Scheiße, and he's like shit. But they do the subtitle where it's like the nipples of Mother Hope has run dry or something like that. Like it's a super long sentence. This is when we're gonna kind of get into the main story of the movie. We go down to the Depression Project. Where the drug is being developed, and we meet kind of our main cast of characters with Dr. Chris Cooper, Mrs. Herticher, Baxter, Alice, and I can't remember who Mark McKinney's character's name was.
Scientist guy.
I'm trying to think, was he ever named?
I don't know.
He might have been. I know they said Baxter's name, and I know Alice, but they probably would have said him, but again, I feel if they had given him a name and more of a part to play, it would have detracted from his portrayal of Don. We see that the drug that they have developed looks like a deformed Jolly Rancher.
I mean, it's Prozac, right? It's essentially they're doing Prozac.
Well, it's the idea that they're sending up the fact that it was the mid '90s and a lot of people were super medicated. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's not to say that, folks aren't, on antidepressants now, but it's, back then there was more of it was more of a thing because there was still a lot of a stigma attached to it.
Yeah.
Antidepressants were outlawed in 1997, guys. So the year after this movie came out. So.
Yeah. Because they they had an agenda and they got it solved.
Right.
That's right. When they gave Mrs. Herticher, who is played by Scott Thompson, the drug because she's sad, and for some reason she had a full set of teeth in her stomach.
Yeah.
Because they give it to her and they track the path of the pill that she takes, and it goes down to her stomach, and there's some foodstuffs there, but there's also like a set of teeth. Like dentures or like those, the chattering teeth that you can get at like joke shops.
Dentures.
Yeah.
And by the way, that's the budget right there. That shot, that little transition thing, that's all the money.
But the idea with this drug is that it is supposed to chemically seek out your happiest memory chemically in your brain and kind of let you relive that memory chemically.
Feel that emotion.
So the memory that Mrs. Herticher kind of locks on to is when her son, played by Dave Foley, comes to visit, and is one of the first things he says. So here, Dad's dead. It's like one of the first things he says to her.
It's a drive-by visit.
It really is, because it's like 6 o'clock on Christmas Day. Yeah. He shows up with these fucking rotten children who have no respect for their grandmother. One of them calls her stupid because she didn't get him the right action figures. Dave Foley has a glass of eggnog and says, "Well, gotta get back in the car, kids."
Oh no, he asks where the eggnog is, and he just pours himself alcohol and then leaves. I don't
No,
even think he drinks the eggnog. I think he just
the
pours from the bottle of whiskey or something.
I thought it was just alcoholized.
Yeah, you know how the kids feel about old people.
And he's like, "All right, kids, back in the car," and they're going out, and they give Mother Herditure a gift. Oh, I wonder what that is. It's a harmonica, and then leave.
And that's her happiest memory. This woman has led a horrifying life.
Well, yeah.
Coming! Merry Christmas! Oh, that's all right.
Yeah, sorry we're a few hours late there, Mom, but you know how the kids hate old people.
Oh, well, that's all right, as long as we're all together now, eh?
Yeah, that's the important thing. So how's your health there, Mom? You doing okay?
Oh, good. Just a touch of the sciatic. Oh, well, there.
So here, Dad's dead. Yeah. Hey, is that eggnog?
Oh, yeah, go have yourself a glass. I'm gonna go check on the bird. I thought we'd have yams this year. We got ourselves a butterball, because remember last year was so dry, and Verna Breen said that they're the best.
Gotta go.
Oh.
Come on, kids, in the car. Come on, let's go. Yeah, sorry, Mom, we gotta go,
You're off.
But hey, you got that gift for my mom?
Oh, yeah. Merry Christmas, Mother Herditure.
Oh!
Come on.
Nice. I wonder what that is.
The harmonica.
Well, see you next year. Oh, that was lovely.
And then she's very happy.
Yes, this does make her quite happy, and she describes this in a few different ways. God is rubbing my tummy, I think, was one of the more memorable ones. Now, with like with most drugs, they know that this is not the end of the road. This is actually just the starting of a new one, because they're going to have to do a lot of testing and FDA approval and things like that. But we don't get to think about that too much, because we have arriving to the building the owner of the company in a helicopter, and we got Dave Foley, who is like his Smithers.
Yeah,
Marvin, yeah. And
probably one of my two favorite characters in this movie are Marvin and the psychiatrist.
Well, it's good that they are, because those are half of the characters that Dave Foley plays in this movie.
We do find out that, and you made reference earlier about Mark McKinney's character being possibly also a send up of Donald Trump. This actually, given the fact that how onion skinned they portray him, it would not surprise me. We got the people who work for him are so sycophantic and afraid of him that they ask the helicopter pilot what color socks he's wearing. When they say he's wearing red socks, they change all the carpets to red from blue to match his socks.
And he handles the company sort of like a toy company, because he's like, all right, we need new seasonal things. Like he's like, we didn't have a Christmas one or a back to school drug.
Back to school drug or Christmas drug.
We didn't have a International Women's Day drug.
Yeah.
That's the one that got me.
Yeah. We get to see that his company's not really doing all that well, because one of the non-Kids in the Hall characters asks him, how was the board meeting? And he's like, could I have the room, please? And they leave, and he screams, my empire is crumbling. Okay, you can all go ahead and come back in now.
So this scene also has one of my favorite lines, because he says the board is talking about making some cutbacks, and then he's like, naturally I told them to fuck themselves.
Great job. Way to be, Don. That's take charge and stand up to them.
But then out loud I said I would see what I could do.
Yeah.
Where are we on that?
You mean the thing that you just told me about right now?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we're on top of that, Don.
Right.
Good.
that has like such Donald Trump energy.
Yes.
It felt kind of Lorne Michaels energy too, though. Like it just felt like a very like, Chevy's in Las Vegas, and Danny's over in Chicago, and that's just how we're gonna make the season work. When the show started, anytime you see a Lorne Michaels interview, it's just so long-winded, but also delightful, but also you're like, you're not quite a human being.
Yeah.
Right. It's funny, but did it get the right laugh? Anyways, he's talking about all this R&D stuff that's going to be cut and all that. We then go back downstairs to meet our, I don't know what, test subjects, control group, starring Brendan Fraser. So this is after Brendan Fraser was able to not only show that he could do comedy, but could also be in a super serious drama where Matt Damon is an anti-Semite.
But I don't think he had the recognition he did until a year or two. Once he did George of the Jungle and The Mummy, that's when the mega star thing.
Well, no, it is. I guess maybe that's my film buff showing, because when I first when I saw this in theaters, oh shit, Brendan Fraser's in this.
Well, I had a moment there because I'm like, there's no way that's Brendan Fraser. Or if it is, this is obviously supposed to be a big cameo. But that's my young buck showing there.
He is Canadian.
He is.
Yeah. They force him to take it because he thinks that he's in the control group. He's getting the sugar pill. Everybody in the group has acne, which is what he's saying. He's put on weight and he's got terrible acne. It tells me it's a sugar pill. Just take it. And McKinney steps on his foot and throws it down his throat. You can't do that to me. And we get a really great line from Bruce McCulloch as Alice, where she says, "This urine is great."
Well, and that's
line.
Bruce's lady voice is probably the best lady voice out of all of them. I think.
I will say this from the show, whenever they had Bruce doing drag or playing a woman, it was always great because there was a nuance to his voice when he did women. I'm not saying that Kevin McDonald or Dave Foley or any of them can't do it, because they absolutely can. But Bruce McCulloch is the best of the bunch.
He is the best of the bunch, and I think it's because he is less extreme than the other ones. He pushes it less. It feels a little more natural.
I find a lot of times too with Bruce's female characters that he usually plays demure a lot more. In comparison to when Scott Thompson does drag like Mrs. Herdicher, it's always a presence. May not be like that, sassy, brassy John Mulaney type of drag, but it's always, there's always a presence to the character that he's playing, whereas Bruce's female characters are always more shrinking violets, I guess, for lack of a better term.
So there's the montage of people pitching different things to Lorne Michaels. I mean, Mark McKinney.
Yes.
One of them is I
have
a pill
drug
to get
that gives worms to ex-girlfriends.
He's got another one that comes in and he's because his big thing is he made these things called stummies, which are basically Tums. And he's like, they're stummies, but they're bigger. But he's like, right, were there any flipper children? Well, a few flipper children.
Were there any side effects?
Yeah.
There were some. As long as there weren't any flipper babies, right, Don? There were flipper babies, and they kicked this poor chap out. And as he's being drug out, Chris, who has been summoned by Marv to go see Don, is he's walking down the hall, and this guy's dragged out. So I guess the scuttlebutt going around the company is that it's in trouble.
Yeah.
And there's
They're
actually
axing programs that aren't making money.
there's some really funny bits in here that actually really mimic corporate life quite well, because I heard that we've been sold to the Japanese. I heard that Don got shot. Did you guys hear the Japanese shot Don? I have heard so many conversations that get telephoned like that throughout work in the 10 years, the place where I've been working, and people they speculate, and it gets out of control, when in reality the end of it comes down to, well, we had to cut 10 or 15 jobs, which is, it's terrible, but everybody ramping up was like, they're closing the entire center. They're moving it all to the States, and we're all going to be at a job, all 400 of us.
Yeah, they're definitely getting that feeling. They're dragging people out, arrested monkeys, stuff like that.
Kevin McDonald gets brought in to do to pitch why his team should stay employed, and he starts saying starts talking about the happy pill, and he's like, oh, is it ready to go? And he's like, well, we still have a lot of testing. He's like, right, but is it ready? And then he says yes, because he doesn't want them all to lose their jobs.
And they go out and celebrate by getting girl drunk.
Yep.
I don't know if they did that on purpose. I mean, I'm sure they did it for laughs, the fact that they're all at a tiki bar, but there was a really great sketch about girl drunks starring Dave Foley on Kids in the Hall.
There's a moment here that comes here too that reminds me of a lot of a bit in the first Austin Powers movie, because Kevin is talking about I keep saying Kevin McDonald, Cooper, whatever. He tells Lady Bruce about his father, and there's a scene his suicidal father, which, by the way, I read an interview that apparently Kevin wasn't super comfortable playing the lead in this movie, because it was supposed to be Dave Foley, and then Kevin kind of stepped in because Dave Foley had other shit, obviously. But Kevin was
just before news radio took off for him, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was on the air, so Dave had lots of stuff at the same time. But Kevin said this is the only character he was fully embraced and had fun playing, because he plays his own father, and he's depressed and suicidal. And then we hear him go off screen, and we hear gunshots, and he's like, I shot my foot, my other foot. And then they say what is it, 200
2 hours later, he hit an artery and died.
He hit a vital organ and died.
It reminded me of that scene in the first Austin Powers when Will Ferrell keeps dying when he gets shot, when he gets dropped into that fire pit. He's like, oh, I'll try the other one.
It just really hurts.
Oh, are you here to help me? You shot me. You shot me right in the arm.
Why would you do that?
Yeah. It just reminded me a little bit of that. I think that came out the year after this. So
it's, there was probably some overlap there.
I mean, it's
comedy.
Lorne
I mean,
Michaels.
it's not a super original joke anyway, but I'm just saying it's for someone to stretch out a death scene. So I mean, it was just reminded me of it.
Yeah. So after they get drunk, is it Alice and Cooper have a will they won't they moment?
Oh my God.
I didn't know, Chris. I didn't know. Didn't know.
But they don't. And then we flash forward to the next day where everything's going ahead, and we meet Bruce's other, kind of main character, Cisco, who is in marketing for the company.
Yeah, and he's basically a slimy asshole.
He is the absolute polar opposite of Alice.
And
there's one moment later
a lot George Stroumboulopoulos for some reason.
There's one moment later in the movie where he says
saying that 'cause he has a soul patch,
where someone says my coffee is Luke, and she's like, warm, and then he goes, no, Skywalker, you dumb bitch, or something like that.
And it's funny because at that scene, and in that scene, Dawn and Chris both laugh, and then he realizes that they're laughing. They think he made a joke, so he starts laughing too.
Yeah.
Not knowing full well that he's just a full-on misogynist.
But he does come up with a great name for this drug, Nathan.
Gleeman-X. And the reason why it's called Gleeman-X is because he hit a bird with his car, and as he was scrubbing off the gleaming guts of it, that's when it came to him. Gleeman-X.
Yep.
It feels like it's 72 degrees in your head all the time.
Yeah, and then they start to show like the progression of Kevin, like Cooper getting not yet, but like he's starting to get a little high on life there, because they show him on like a talk show, and it's a very like typical talk show satire.
Deanie Petty. That is Deanie Petty.
Well, I mean, I just mean it's like typical satire of talk shows in general, though, where a scientist comes on with this like amazing discovery, and she's like, "Oh, you look like Tom Jones. Why don't you get up and start shaking your hips for everyone?"
I do think my favorite part of that scene, though, is the old man who's like, "I was thinking of being a scientist when I grow up."
Yeah, I was partial to Nina Bedford being like, "This is my new outfit. What do you think?" And people going, "Boo!" It's such a weird, like such a
They
weird
come to her
choice.
show just to boo her.
Yeah. But she's like, "Oh, okay."
Because of this, they're sending Gleeman-X into full-on production, and who approves the drug to be used? None other than Scott Thompson as Queen Elizabeth II.
That's how it works.
That's right. I really hope that the 5 people who saw this in the States saw it and thought that that's how drugs get approved in Canada.
She approves all our drugs.
Well, that is technically not true. The passing of the cannabis laws a few years ago had to get royal assent from her. She had to sign off on it.
Yeah, well, do you think she's not getting stoned 24/7?
Well, she's considering how old she is, probably.
She's in constant pain, guys.
Yeah.
She's like 128. Yeah, shortly after the show, Bruce McCulloch and Mark McKinney are 2 cops talking about. Did you see the Nina Bedford show, the toast fucking episode?
Cherry Beach PD. These are 2 characters from the show as well.
Oh, are they? See, I have no idea.
Yeah. There are several like short vignettes where these guys are just either sitting in their squad car talking about maybe not necessarily the job that they do, but life in general and the ridiculous shit, like, watching a toast fucking episode of the Nina Bedford show.
My question for you, though, Nathan, because they say pitter patter, let's get at her. Is this why you started saying it?
No, actually, I started saying it because of Letterkenny.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Most unrealistic cop scene, though. An entire swarm of naked men comes charging out of a bathroom, and not a single one of them actually got shot.
Yeah. Also, it's a clown car bathroom.
It really
Because they run out for like 10 minutes.
And finally, the last person to come out is Wally,
Yep.
played by Scott Thompson, who he's arrested and brought home, quote unquote, buck-ass naked.
Yeah.
We get to see a bit of Scott Thompson's patch, which I was not happy with, but I mean, it's not to be unexpected. You watch Kids in the Hall long enough, you're gonna see one of their bums. Surprised I didn't see Dave Foley's penis until many years later.
I think at the time, I heard at the time, because he was doing news radio, he didn't want to do anything too outlandish, and he also didn't want to do drag, apparently. For this
Really?
movie. Yeah. But I think we can come to an agreement that the 90s maybe not the best time period for gay portrayals on television or movies.
No, certainly not.
Well, especially if you're not a lesbian, because that was a big thing in the 90s. Is the hot one.
Lesbians were hot, bro. Oh, so hot.
Yeah, that's why Ellen's show lasted so long after she came out.
Wow, she wasn't a lipstick lesbian, dude. They gotta look straight and be gay.
So Wally gets brought home, and the cops they say to Kevin McDonald in drag. If I just might, and this is Mark McKinney. If I just might, ma'am, I can't understand why a fellow would get up to such kind of hijinks with a hot piece of ass like you at home.
Most realistic portrayal of those cops.
I do like how Kevin McDonald as the wife was like, thanks, I guess.
You.
Like they didn't play it like straight. Like I assumed he was just gonna be like, oh, what? Like I expected Kevin McDonald to be
legitimately flattered.
Yeah, like oh, thank you. But I like how they played it as if like that's a really creepy thing to say.
Yeah.
While he's trying to explain why he was naked in a bathroom orgy in the park, she doesn't buy any of it, leaves him outside, and he's left trying to explain it to the neighbors. We cut next to the therapist who has a German patient who only speaks German to him. Why do they think that I'm like that? Like I'm one of them? And the doctor's like, because you are.
Yeah. Because you are one of those types.
Yeah. You are a gay man. And so he prescribes him.
Knows you're gay. The neighborhood dogs know you're gay.
The only person who doesn't know it is you. So he prescribes him Gleamanex, or the drug. Incidentally, I believe that's what the name of this, the original title was. It was just going to be The Drug.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyhow, he prescribes this to Scott Thompson. He's like, so well, you think this'll make me? And he's like, no.
Will I
no.
still be in denial?
Well,
no,
yeah.
It's to be hoped and expected that you'll just be gay.
Just be gay. Yeah.
He's so angry about it. That's what I love about his character.
We go back to the cab driver because he's talking about a bunch of conspiracy theories about how the drug is made out of monkey jizz and stuff.
It's
and you know
made
what?
From monkey cum.
Guys, I just want to say, though, this is not far removed from cab drivers in 2021.
Why
You know that
It's
vaccine? That
It's
vaccine
made
is
from
made,
monkey cum.
That vaccine is made from the skin of dead orphans.
You know, they actually harvested that vaccine from scared children underneath in the deep underground military base.
Underneath all those pizzerias that don't have basements.
Oh,
You know, you know who invented that COVID? Barack Obama.
Middle name's Hussein. I don't think that's a coincidence.
I'm just saying. How do you have the same middle name
You've
as
gotta
someone
do-
else's last name who happened to be a dictator? That doesn't happen. That doesn't happen. I don't know why I'm
got
Richard
to do
Nixon now.
Your own research. Don't believe everything you hear on the news.
Yeah.
You've got to do your own research.
And by that, I mean go on Facebook and anything you agree with, share it.
That's
Yeah.
right. Make sure you're getting all your latest news from 8kun.
They're going to say 8chan.
Well, it was 8chan.
Oh.
8kun is now what it's called.
Oh, that's terrible.
It is terrible.
That is just,
But also on brand.
yeah.
Exactly. Totally.
He does describe how they get the monkeys to jerk off. They show them real kinky
Animal
stuff,
porn.
like this animal pornography, like two dogs fucking a cat.
And then the Bruce McCulloch singer dude is at his concert, and he's just like, you heard about this new drug? And they're like, heroin. He's like, not
No, it's just,
heroin.
I want to talk about drugs.
Yeah, and they're like,
Yeah.
heroin.
No,
Not heroin. Hashish.
No, not hashish. Not even speed. Horse tranquilizers?
And then he basically says he's never doing the happy drug.
Yeah, he says fuck happy, and then they just get into ripping and rocking again. That was a fun little vignette. Next, we find out that the drug is doing quite well, so much so that it is actually beating penicillin in the numbers according to Drug Variety.
And you know what? It's working out well for everyone because Scott Thompson takes the drug and he has a big musical number that is
That's
gay.
fantastic. I love that it ends with "Who cares?"
Then when the scientists end up getting invited to go to Lorne Michaels' house,
Right.
we meet Cancer Boy.
Oh boy.
So this is what you were talking about earlier, where if they had maybe not fought so hard for this very small part, arguably very small part of the movie, that I think it was Paramount Was it
Yes,
Paramount?
Paramount
Okay.
is the
They
company.
they would have probably promoted it a lot more. Because
Yeah.
I
guess
honestly, I was torn about this part because, like, on the one hand, it's Kids in the Hall, it's '96, and this sort of stuff you could get away with it back then. But I'm watching it now, and I'm like, oh boy.
But that's it. Like
Yeah.
that as we said earlier, is on brand for this
Yeah.
group. They did everything they could to push, not just push the envelope, but absolutely obliterate it.
But I
Yeah.
don't think there's enough of a joke here. Like, I know I read that they're trying to satirize the fact that with this whole thing with like celebrities taking pictures with sick kids, and they said there was a line that said, oh, if that kid went back into remission, like you wouldn't see this actor come anywhere near them again. But I don't think this really gets that across. Like, I think it's just,
No.
it plays just as shock comedy for me. It doesn't really
It
work.
honestly just felt like they were making fun of the Make-A-Wish Foundation, which is
Yeah.
like not cool.
Well, in actuality, this character appeared in the last episode of Kids in the Hall, and it was designed to be explicitly offensive. There was no other
Yeah.
designs on this character at all, and so they put him in the movie, and they again, like you said, they fought super hard to keep him in the movie. I feel that this, like, if they wanted to fan service this particular character, they could have left the character in, but maybe cut this scene.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
he shows up later at the award ceremony.
Right.
It's just like that type of joke where, like, I'm laughing just at the initial shock of it, but like thinking back, I'm just like, that could have been cut. I don't know if that was the hill I would have died on.
Because
Yeah.
he's like, because Cooper asked him, "Are you on the drug?" He's like, "Oh no, there's no hope for me, but my parents are on it." And I was like, "Fuck."
Because my brother was born with his heart on the outside. Like, good. And that's the thing, is like they push it so far that it's almost satirizing itself, and that's why you're laughing. But at the same time, it's like that's like not a joke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and enough of Cancer Boy. We'll move on from the darkly absurd. Marv as takes Chris down to meet with Dawn, and he is actually not invited to this meeting. So much so that Dawn sends him back up in the lift, and he tries to watch or catch as much of the conversation as possible as the lift is going up.
And I love how that's just done in the background. You wouldn't even notice if you're not watching him go up.
Right, because all the while this is going on, Dawn is starting to tell Cooper that they're going to be applying for non-prescription, meaning this will be over the counter. Yeah.
He also asks him if he wants land in Montana or AA batteries.
He does give him some. He gives him a weird shopping list of things that he's willing to just give him, like right now. All these things will be yours, even if you don't ask for them.
That line, by the way, where he says, like, you do understand that all of these things will be yours either way, right? That sounds like an actual Lorne Michaels line, because I've heard him say stuff like, I've heard like stories about him saying stuff like, oh, and then of course I think you're going to be really good on the show. You're kind of got like this vibe of like a Mike Myers, and he always did his own sketches, and that just seems to be like what you're doing. You understand what I'm saying, right? Like, it just sounds like something he would say, which is hilarious. You got to think, like, they make him this like onion skinned, like you said, Nathan, this thin skinned character, but clearly Lorne Michaels is not thin skinned because he's the producer of this movie, and
Again,
he's like, sure, put the character in. It's funny.
I feel that obviously the impression is of him as far as the voice and mannerisms of this character, but I think a lot of the actual characteristics of the character go back to what Ben said. It's possibly a send up of 45.
Yeah.
Even so, I still think it's funny that, like, he's producing this movie and he's like, oh, you're playing me as an evil megalomaniac? That's fine, Mark.
Is it getting the right laughs?
Let's just take a look at your Saturday Night Live contract. Oh, you've got one more season on here. Interesting.
After all this discussion happens, Chris is then taken to the real party.
And he's being filmed?
Yeah, he's on a monitor. That's it. Like, because Baxter and Alice and Mark McKinney as a scientist, because we don't know his name, are standing around in the opening party, I guess. And they're like, I haven't seen Chris at all. And you're like, he's on that monitor over there, and he's like making it with some other girl and stuff. And it's really, I don't know, one of the things I found kind of jarring, and I know it's because of the time that the movie was made, but when everything is tube TV'd, and it's like, oh right, yeah, because TVs used to be gigantic and heavy.
I would have found that a lot more jarring if I just wasn't so into the cyberpunk genre. Everything's like retro futuristic anyway, so it didn't connect in my head that should be weird for me now.
Oh, and also should mention in this scene where, he's like telling him all these things he can get for him, and he's telling Dawn or Lorne or whatever is telling him that they're gonna try to make the pill non-prescription. He says, there's all these ghetto children. The ghetto children, they probably need it. Their lives are horrible. I don't know if you knew.
Yes, he does say that.
Oh boy!
Which automatically puts him one step above Donald Trump, because Donald Trump wouldn't care about the ghetto. He wouldn't even say ghetto children unless he was saying they're bringing the drugs.
But here's the thing, Brendan. If he could make a dime off them, he would.
This will be the greatest antidepressant of all time. It'll come in the biggest packages and have the best, the greatest colors.
I'm very happy. Very happy.
We flash forward to 3 months later, and
Kevin is an asshole.
Absolutely, and they're trying to develop Gleemanix for pets.
And he doesn't like the models that they've shown him so far.
I need to see more dogs.
This dog.
I need to see more dogs. I have a dog in mind, and I haven't seen it yet.
By the way, that would be me, because I would just want an excuse to see more dogs. Bring in more dogs. Loving these dogs. Thankfully, Bruce McCulloch's really angry singer takes the drug, and he sings a song about being super happy.
Happiness Pie. And it has Paul Bellini in the video. Now,
is he wearing the towel?
He is.
Okay.
He's wearing the towel. It's an orange towel because it has to go along with the aesthetic of the video. But he's wearing a regular terry cloth orange towel. Everybody else is kind of just wearing regular clothes in this video. And then they all take the drug. I think that's how it works. Or they fall into the happiness pie. And they're all wearing like pleather. Even Bellini has a pleather towel, which I don't feel would be very absorbent.
We also go.
We should explain to the folks who aren't in the know. Paul Bellini was one of the writers with Kids in the Hall. He wasn't like a character actor or anything like that. He showed up on the show from time to time. They even had a contest called Touch Paul Bellini, where if you spotted Paul Bellini in a particular sketch, you would send in a postcard through the mail with a stamp. Yes, kids, we are 1,000 years old. And you would name the scene that you saw him in. And if your name was drawn, you had the correct answer. You had the opportunity to meet and touch Paul Bellini. And it was won by somebody here in New Brunswick.
Did you win?
It was not me. No.
I thought that was your cocky way of being and it was won by someone in New Brunswick. And that someone was me.
I would have been busy hunting Parasaurolophilus with a spear.
It was a guy who, I think it was from Perth Andover, New Brunswick.
It was Blaine Higgs.
I would have to look it up. That would be funny if it was, but I don't think it was.
Blaine Higgs. Fuck that guy.
Hot take on local politics for the listeners in our province.
I was going to say, is it a hot take?
Listen, I've managed to go almost this entire episode without complaining about Jason Kenney.
What's there to complain about? He's just having a good time in his palatial estate.
He's the only one, yeah.
And this scene with the video for Happiness Pie leads into I thought was the Much Music Video Awards. After watching the credits, I find out it was actually taken from the MTV video awards, but that's neither here nor there. This is the part of the movie where they could have left Cancer Boy in, and it would have been far less controversial because he wins an award for an album called Whistle When You're Low, and the single that he wins it for is The Fields of Athenry, which is a fantastic tune covered by the Dropkick Murphys.
And there's an actual joke there because, like,
Yeah.
These kind of pity awards that they sometimes give to disabled people who aren't actually necessarily good musicians or good actors or whatever, right? Like, there's a joke there other than just, this kid has cancer. Isn't that
And
horrible?
the rest of the people in his life are suffering terribly.
That's true. This scene, I agree that if it had just been this scene, I wonder if like maybe it wouldn't have been as hard for Paramount to be like, all right, we'll promote the movie.
Yeah. We got a bit of montagey type stuff. I have a note here. Cisco don't high five because they're outside of like some gala. It might even just be outside of the video awards. He wants to give Chris Cooper, not from American Beauty, wants to give Cisco, not the guy who sang the thong song, a high five.
By the way, imagine that movie.
Chris Cooper and Cisco together at last.
That's the buddy comedy we don't need, but that we deserve.
So he won't give him a high five because he's too cool for school. But in this scene, as Cooper's walking out, there's all kinds of people who want like autographs and whatnot. One of the people who was scared before he started taking the drug and everything is Adam from You Can't Do That on Television.
Oh, okay.
You may recognize him as playing a young Joel Schuster in the Our Heritage moment where he's the creator of Superman. Right after that, Cisco gets a burn in the eye.
That was such an insanely random scene.
Well, it is, but I don't know, or I think maybe that it's I don't know, a note or an homage to Fabio getting hit in the face with a goose, because Bruce is also known as Brucio.
Hold on a second. Fabio got hit in the face with a goose?
On a roller coaster.
Yeah.
Oh, what?
Yep.
He got goosed.
I missed this part of pop culture.
It for realsies happened.
Why didn't someone wake me up?
You might have actually been napping. It was in the 90s.
Early, mid, or late?
Mid.
Okay, I was probably under 10. So I wasn't familiar with Fabio's filmography at the time.
Oh no, he was just Fabio. Fabio wasn't in movies. He's Fabio.
Excuse me, Fabio was not in movies. He steals the show in Dude, Where's My Car?
As Fabio.
That's right.
But
performance of a lifetime. His real name's not Fabio. It's a performance. It counts.
But I think that maybe that's what they were making reference to, because he's Brucio.
Or it's just a callback to the fact he hit a
bird. It could be.
Oh, it could be that. Yeah, it's a good call.
Yeah. This whole thing though it leads to afterwards Kevin waking up having been apparently in a three-way
with I think
that
Bruce
Cisco
was just watching. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Because I was like, I thought at first it was a four-way, and then I rewound and I was like, no,
he's clothed and sitting in that chair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Lady Bruce comes over and is like, look what happened to this mouse, Chris.
And he's frozen, mentally frozen.
And that's an because that means that anybody that took that pill is going to be frozen in a coma.
You know what? We come to find out that in this case, when people are kind of frozen in the coma, is because they're stuck in their happiest memory, and that's all they're doing is just thinking about it over and over and over again. Why couldn't we see the mouse's happiest moment?
Maybe budget.
Maybe. Chris is like, he has to kind of investigate this, and he heads back to the research facility, turns on the lights, and apparently there was a giant gay orgy going on there, where everybody runs out, including Brendan Fraser, who stole a cage for some reason.
Yep. Second appearance in the film.
And the last person to walk out is Wally.
He doesn't
just,
walk. He's
just strutting. It's all yours, Captain.
I like how when he realizes he's gay, not only is he gay, but he has like giant orgies. It's such a leap
for two.
And when his happiest memory apparently was when he was in the army and his drill sergeant was, warm to his form. Which now you think, okay, that's a one-off joke, but then the whole Clinton don't ask, don't tell stuff was a big thing at the time, right?
Yeah, thank fuck they got rid of that.
Yeah.
Sorry to get political.
Right. We find out that even the research chimp is stuck in his happiest memory, which is where he beats Mark McKinney in chess.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And so because all these people or all these test subjects are stuck, he's like, I got Chris Cooper, not the bad guy from the Muppets, has to find out what's going on. So of course he goes to see their earliest test subject, Mrs. Herdicher. And this scene right here where he walks in and the cats are like everywhere, is like on the ceiling and stuff, and one falls on his head and he starts screaming, "Cat on my head! There's a cat on my head!" It's the one scene from this movie that has stuck with me over the years. I watched this for the show, and everything started coming back to me, and I was like, oh, I remember that, I remember that, I remember that. But when that thing came up, I knew exactly what was going to happen. I knew when it was going to happen. I've never forgotten this scene. It's one of my favorite scenes in the movie. And after he gets the cat off his head, he looks up. There's like 3 or 4 other cats just on the ceiling. Great stuff. Great stuff.
And so when he realizes that she's also stuck in her memory, he goes to the office where naturally they're having a bris.
We're brissing. We're about to briss.
We're gonna have a bris here. I don't know if maybe you want to come back later. Is this important? And another scene here, because he starts telling like Don or Lorne Michaels or whatever, and Dave Foley, he starts telling them there's serious side effects. Like people are going into comas and stuff. Well,
we have to go to the media.
Oh, well, I don't know. She was an old lady. Old ladies go into comas all the time. And they're walking down the hall, and Mark McKinney is doing. By the way, I think him as this character is the best performance in the movie. But he's doing this long-winded thing, and I don't even have written down like everything he's saying. But
would you agree that Paris is the capital of France?
Yeah, it's just again, it's a thing that it's like I swear I've read something where like a quote that Lorne Michaels did, and it sounds like something like this. Like it's just a crazy wraparound like nothing. Good. And Kevin is still like, well, I gotta go to the media no matter what, right?
Because they get down to the secret bunker where he's got all the coma patients, so it's clear that he already knew this was going on.
And this is where he goes into that spiel about acceptable losses, and Chris just loses it. You push, boy.
There's another great joke here because Mark McKinney keeps putting his finger in his face, and Kevin keeps pushing it out of the way, pushing out of the way, and you think that's it. But later on, when you see Mark McKinney again, he's got his whole hand in like a metal cast thing.
Well, yes, because when he walks out the door, you hear him say, "My fucking finger,"
like as if he he's like, I can't let anyone touch my finger again.
Yeah, like
he's made out of glass or something.
Twisted it around or something. Yeah.
They call me Mr. Glass.
Oh no! Get out of here, Sam Jackson.
We get to see that Wally is now stuck in his happiest memory, which apparently is some training exercise that they did with his drill sergeant, where Wally got to go up and screw a bunch of hot guys while the rest of the platoon stayed behind and masturbated.
I guess that happened for real because that was a memory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want you to go fuck those men.
And just going like, wow, so this wasn't like a secret thing he was doing with his drill sergeant. Okay.
I also would like to know who he was fighting against because they all just seem to be American.
I don't like, again, I don't feel that this was necessary. I feel this might have been just a training exercise that, got super homoerotic.
Well, I mean, homosexual. There was not. It wasn't just homoerotic. There was
I don't know, like maybe those
penetration.
guys who were getting showers weren't down with it, and that would make Wally awful. But
that would make him pretty bad.
Yeah. But we go on to a sparsely attended press conference.
College radio, military and helmets, and what's the other one? A girl beat.
Girl beat. I was quite let down that they didn't make a Steve Anthony joke here, because they actually did that on the show once, where Bruce McCulloch was doing this spiel, this monologue sketch about his hangover. And on one of the days of the hangover, he calls a press conference, and the only person who shows up is Steve Anthony from Chum, and I didn't let him in. So I was really kind of bummed that they didn't have like some sort of Chum or Much Music personality be there with like a broken tape recorder or something.
Was George Stroumboulopoulos still working for MTV at this time?
This was way before Strombo.
Oh.
Yeah.
Bro, know your Strombo timeline, bro.
I think Strombo didn't start working for Much Music until like the 2000s, I think.
Really? Oh.
Yeah.
Man, I was CBC for longer than that. I guess.
Well, he was on the he had the punk show on Much Music back when Much Music used to show videos all the time, and that was like my first introduction to Strombo, and then he got this gig on the CBC. But
yeah,
brain
so
candy.
Kevin brings the media, or what he has of the media, but then he sees the real press conference that Dawn/Lorne is having, and they've turned this whole thing around by announcing that they're opening this like comatorium.
Did you notice that they got Mrs. Herdicher there? They've got Dave Foley as her son, his wife, and they're shilling for the comatorium, and they have a check that they've been given by the company for $10,000 because their mother is now in a coma and has to be looked after 24/7 in the comatorium. But on the check, it actually has prize winner.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Like your mom's in a coma, you've won a prize. Like, good lord.
It's pretty dark.
Yep.
But what and then Kevin does his like big speech here, right? He's like, sometimes people need to be depressed a little bit. We can't be happy all the time. And they're like, wow. You sound really depressed. That means legally you have to take your own drug.
Well, he makes
showdown.
He makes a statement that the drug was designed for people who are so depressed they can't even get off the floor, not because you look bad in a yellow hat. And there's like some girl there who like
wasn't that the girl magazine girl?
Yeah.
Just like, wait, what?
And so they try to stuff a pill down his throat.
And he's like, if it's so safe, then why don't you take it? Oh, I will. Marv? Yes, Don. Take the drug.
Marvin's happy memory is pissing in Lorne's cappuccino.
Getting somebody else to do it, yeah.
Yeah.
And then when they're trying to stuff the pill and he spits it out into Lorne's mouth, Lorne's happy memory is drinking that cappuccino.
Really good coffee today, Marv.
Yeah.
Just Marv, direct acting. That's what I call direct acting, guys.
He actually says when Dawn is trying to pitch the idea that Chris has to take the drug, he's like, you see it happen with all of our more famous creative types, Aristotle, Van Gogh, Boxcar Willie.
But then you get the cab driver coming in with the narration again, right? Because he's like,
people keep taking the pill.
Well, now they have these parades to the coma victims
with the fucking astronauts.
Wheel them out like fucking astronauts.
There's a coma queen parade, but
I'm the only asshole left.
But he is heartened by the idea that the research is still going on, and we get kind of a pan down to where the core group of scientists who developed Gleeman X are actually working on the anti-Gleeman X, but not Baxter, because unfortunately they tested one of the drugs on her and it did not go well.
Nope.
But they do get it to work, and Mrs. Herdicher is again their test subject. She is sad, and we get a big smooch from Kevin and Bruce.
And there's an after credits gag.
There is, and it actually ties into Mrs. Herdicher's saddest memory, where she gave her grandson a big thing of balloons, and he floated away into the sky. And as that's happening, we get more narration from our cab driver who says, "And don't worry, the kid was fine. He came down in the field somewhere and is amazingly now a commercial airline pilot. So there's your happy ending. Now get out, because nowhere on the ticket does it say you can sleep here."
Yeah, so there's the ultimate solution to fixing this happy drug is to make a sad drug.
Yeah.
Right. And then the after credit scene is just a continuation of this sad where Mrs. Herricher's daughter-in-law shows up and says, "Where's Miguel? Oh, I thought he was with you." Well, great. He missed the clown.
I definitely missed that. I didn't catch that at all.
That's the
I fast forwarded through the credits. Just it's like there's no way. This is 96. There's no way there's an after credits gag.
Yeah, where's Nick Fury?
Yeah.
It would be David Hasselhoff at that point, though.
Yes.
I actually saw the after credits in theater because I was such a Kids in the Hall fan that I wanted to see every last credit in the movie, and I got treated to that sweet tune by the Odds, "Eat My Brain." So,
yep.
But that's it. That's it.
That's it. That is Kids in the Hall brain candy.
Yeah.
So, Ben, we're gonna start with you because this is where we give kind of our recommendations on the film. So, would you say that this is worth a watch, a drunk watch with friends? Would you attempt head trauma to forget it, or just avoid it like the plague?
I would attempt head trauma so that I could watch it fresh.
That's kind of a weird qualifier. So it's worth the watch, but it's really worth the watch if you haven't seen it, and you should see it fresh for the first time every time.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
That was me coming into this, and it was great. It's I don't know. Comedy's changed, and it's just not this anymore. This was something else.
And what about you there, Brendan?
I'm going to say worth the watch. I don't think I enjoyed it. I think I like the show a lot more. I had a fine time with it. I wasn't like blown away by it. I think I'm probably going to be the least glowing of the three of us, but I think it says something that the least glowing is still going to be a worth the watch. So I'll say worth the watch.
I wish I could rate it higher than worth the watch. I really do. This is
you must ascend higher plane.
Yeah,
and then watch
it. This movie, like, I was so thrilled when I found it on DVD, so much so that I had to buy it, even though it came with a copy of Back to the Beach, starring Annette Funicello and Frank.
Yeah, why did we do that movie?
Well, coming soon.
Okay.
But if you want to see some narrative storytelling, but maybe this wasn't necessarily your cup of tea, like you had said, Brendan, I do recommend their later effort, Death Comes to Town. Mm-hmm. It's got a linear storytelling to it. You get a fun cast of characters. The humor is dark and zany, but it's definitely more grounded than this movie was. But still, for me, I can't recommend this movie highly enough.
Yeah.
Like it's one of those movies that I will own forever.
I mean, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying like it's worth a watch to me too. But I don't like it quite as much as you guys, I think. But I still enjoyed it.
Okay, that's fair. Well, that's our take. That's Kids in the Hall, Brain Candy. But guys, don't go anywhere. We gotta pay some bills. We're gonna have a couple ads here. So just stick around. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
What were they thinking?
And we are back.
Yes, we are back.
Back and coming into the more artistic, publicly sponsored portion of our show is time for the low haiku.
Yeah.
The low haiku is brought to you by a grant from the Chubb Group and by listeners like you.
And you.
And would you like to explain to the listeners like you and you what the low haiku is all about?
Yes, I would. The low haiku is 17 syllables that we each have concocted to summarize the film we just spent time talking about. I'm not going to specify the time because it could be any time. We don't know. That's going to be future Brendan's problem.
Right. And as our guest, Ben, we will defer to you if you would like to offer up your low haiku.
Well, thank you, gentlemen, for having me on the show this fine evening. As you know, I am a Bachelor of the Arts in English, so I really poured my heart and soul into this haiku for you. This movie is not candy for the biggest brain, or is it?
Accompanying Ben with his low haiku was Heart and Soul. Brendan, would you like to go next?
I would. It's episodic. It's not as good as the show. Charming, culty, fine.
I really felt that one in the heart. I really felt moved by that one.
Thank you.
Mine, despite my glowing endorsement of this movie, does actually call into question some of the more glaring omissions in this movie. So if you will, hey, it's the kids' movie. Aw, I want some cabbage head. No, chicken lady.
Wow. Yeah, just.
It shows that I can really appreciate this movie, but also I do see its shortcomings.
Yeah, I think you did a really wonderful job, Nathan.
Thank you. And but with that, we're gonna just gonna pull it. That's right.
Ben is in trouble.
Okay. So yes. Well, you know what? Now that we're out of NPR land, we have had our say on Kids in the Hall, Brain Candy.
Yeah.
But we don't necessarily think that you should only listen to us. You should do your own research.
Follow scientists on Facebook is what we're saying.
Right, but in that vein of doing your own research, well, what do we always say, Brendan?
Well, we tend to say,
Don't take a word for it.
Yep, that's right. Don't take our word for it. Now, Brendan, I did mention at the top of the show that the critics were not big fans of this. What did they think of it? Then, now that we can get into the nuts and bolts of it.
Well, I mean, for a movie that is very nailed down in a fandom, I guess, very specific fandom, it wasn't as reviled as it could have been. 43% of the critics liked it.
Okay, but the audience.
a few more.
Okay.
It looks like 77% of the 5,000 plus audience members liked it.
So all those kids in the hall fans.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I mean, it doesn't happen all the time, but it's difficult when you have such a niche thing. Sometimes, if somebody doesn't like it, they just don't like it. You know what I mean? Like, there's no way to really convince them.
Yeah, and I'll say, like, there were jokes that did not land for me.
Yeah.
And there were jokes that landed real hard for me.
Mm-hmm. Well, when you're spouting off so many jokes a mile a minute, some are not going to hit.
Yeah. And like, this is definitely not for everyone, but for the people it's really for them.
Yeah, like I don't blame someone if they're like, I was not a fan, because I'd be like, I get it. It's an acquired taste. Not everyone likes it. Not everyone. Comedy is very subjective.
Well, but the sounds of it, the critics were almost evenly split. So let's dive into this. Now, I don't like to really mess with too much on the format on this, so I'm actually going to let you take the lead on this, Brendan. So it keeps that nice OCD feel for me.
Well, I actually want to, and I am going to tinker the format just a little bit. I apologize, but because I do want to start with a bit, and I don't know if it's on here, but I want to start with a bit from Roger Ebert.
Okay.
Because this infamously was a movie that Siskel loved, Roger Ebert hated, like almost to a North level.
Really?
I think he gave it North was a 0-star movie. He gave this 1 star, so this was better than North, I guess, for Roger Ebert. But this is what he says. I just think it's interesting because it's such a different take. Reader, I did not laugh. I felt the kids were too busy being hip and ironic to connect at the simpler level where comedy lives. They were brought down by their own self-protection devices. It's not cool to seem to want to be funny, and so the modern strategy is to adopt the pose that you are funny, but by not seeming to want to be funny. The audience laughs because the performers are being hip by trying to be funny without seeming to try to be funny. Thus, everybody has an irony orgy and goes home, if not satisfied, at least unexposed as unhip. It seemed to me there were 2 or 3 superfluous levels of attitude between the kids and their material. A laugh can penetrate a lot of things, but not a solid block of cool. So he went hard on the whole the kind of hip we're too cool for the room thing. That didn't really work for him. That's what I meant. I just wanted to point that out because that's what I meant earlier when I said this is a very divisive movie for people. I think.
Yeah.
That's certainly a take.
Because I'm not going to read all of Gene Siskel's stuff, but he liked it. And the I guess highlight of his review was a bold and totally off the wall comedy, and he gave it 3.5 out of 4.
And famously too, in that Siskel and Ebert clip, because I've seen that, I won't drop it here because the video quality is terrible, but when Roger Ebert, when it starts on Siskel and he's praising the movie to the high heavens, it cuts over to Ebert and he's like, Gene, I hated the film. And Siskel looks concerned and sad because he's like, Roger, no. Like, that's literally what he says. Roger, no. And I think he was more shocked than argumentative. Like, it's just so funny to watch these two people come at this movie, probably not having talked about it until this moment where they record the episode, and Siskel is just so floored that Roger Ebert doesn't like this movie. It's such a funny moment. They were so great. I miss them both.
TV Guide, according to this, it's May 19th, 2008. There are some very funny bits, but they're interspersed with long stretches of exposition that drag the whole thing down, down, down.
Okay, well, this is from Joe Blow of Joe Blow's Movie Emporium. It was supposed to be a comedy, but it just wasn't funny. End of story.
4 out of 10. Yikes.
Yeah.
And I hate to.
Oh, I know what you're doing, Nathan.
I hate to go into our late great friend of the podcast.
Oh no, Ken.
Ken Henke from the Mountain Express out of Asheville, North Carolina, did not care for it. He wrote a shambling disappointment. 2 out of 5. Never have Ken and I been on the absolute opposite page. More so than right now.
Oh, Canada.
Shambling disappointment.
Shambling disappointment. Yeah.
This movie did a lot of things. I don't think it's shambled.
Well, you gotta respect the dead. Ken Hankey, kiss the sky. We love you.
Peter Subczynski, Peter Polish name, from the spool. Yet, despite its unevenness, Brain Candy is a very funny movie whose principal comedic concerns are as viable today as they were a quarter century ago. This was posted April 14th, 2021.
Oh,
So
wow.
still making the rounds.
More reviews to come. Rotten Tomatoes doesn't lie when they say that. Okay, this is my last. This will be my last critics one. This is a pretty positive one. Scott Weinberg of DVD Clinic. Make an appointment today. Bring in your DVD and he'll repair them. I think that's what he does. I'm guessing. Much like how South Park, bigger, longer, and uncut, proved a brilliant expansion from its source material, Brain Candy captures the Canadian kids at their most cleverly unglued.
Okay. I'm going to finish off on a positive one as well. Luke Y. Thompson from the New York Times. He writes something interesting to me, and I was like, man, I really want to know more about this. I was privy to an early test screening of this, and it was weirder and better than the final product. Even the final watered-down version beats the hell out of most safe so-called comedies, though. 4 out of 5.
Yikes.
Well, yeah, because the original cut had terrorists. It had a different, darker ending. Janine Garofalo had a speaking role because she's in this, by the way, but you can barely see her. She's like in the background of a shot.
I want that. I want that cut.
You can. Well, maybe I'll find it for you, Nathan.
Well, we got the Snyder cut. We just need to start up a petition here to get the. I don't know. Whose cut would this be?
I want to say the kids cut, but that sounds bad.
Oh. Give me that kid's cut.
The other white meat.
Good Lord, Ben, knock that off. Give us one last critic review so we can get into the snake pit.
The Jake Roberts interview segment?
We have here from the San Francisco Chronicle, Edward Guffman, a splendid showcase for their diverse, frisky talents.
Okay. So that's the critics have had their say on it. Now let's find out what the the unwashed masses have to say, and that being the audience. What do you got for us there, Brendan?
Well, a reoccurring guest of the show, Ryan Gilbert, says this isn't even anything 1 star.
I don't think that's Ryan at all.
Oh, he's turned a corner.
Yeah. My first audience one comes from let's see here. I was gonna say Jared F, but that could be problematic.
It's just Jared F. It doesn't have to be that one.
Doesn't have to be that Jared F. So let's go with that. It's not that Jared F. I'm baffled at the poor ratings because this movie is the perfect vehicle for Kids in the Hall. Dark, absurdist realism. Anything that seems like a bad movie trope is entirely purposeful and usually subverted to build upon this nihilistic vision of the psychiatric dystopia towards which we are enthusiastically hurling ourselves. Every time you laugh in this movie, if you're laughing, it's usually because something ugly just happened. It is gloriously on the nose. And I think, you know what, he gave it 5 out of stars, and I think it does actually go to prove the point that it's not that Jared F, because if it had been that Jared F, he was like, this movie says there are kids in the hall. I didn't see a single one.
His review just simply says, false advertising, 0.5 star.
Yeah.
I got one here from Kelly B.
Okay.
I effing love this hot mess. 4 out of stars.
All right.
Okay, I've got one here from Adam West. He gives it he says, funny as the kids in the hall usually are, But unlike the television show, I only shit my pants laughing once every 30 minutes. 2.5 out of stars. So he only shit his pants laughing 3 times.
That's
or
okay.
Twice. 'Cause it's only 88 minutes. So.
Okay. Well, John C. He left off the Riley for some reason.
Oh, I thought you were going to say that. I was going to say I don't see that review there, Nathan.
John C. I get it. I could have gone with John C. He left off the McKinley for some reason.
John Corbett from Big Fat Greek Wedding.
He writes, a hilarious, if severely uneven piece of work. Brain Candy has notable characters and endless quotes worth spouting out to the frat house. 3 out of stars.
All right.
It really abruptly ended. Okay.
Yeah, it sounded like you just gave up at the end.
Yeah.
I got one from Scott M here. It's a drug that gives worms to ex-girlfriends. 4 out of stars.
You just don't get it.
You guys just don't get it here.
Brandon S., so I'm assuming is the character from last week's film from Justin to Kelly.
Oh, God.
Gives it 0.5 out of stars. Says, one of the most absolute epic fail terrible movies I have ever seen. Never again will I sit through this piece of shit. Suicide crossed my mind at least 10 times the first time I saw it. The only thing remotely entertaining in this dog turd was the cab driver. If the movie was about him, it would have been great.
Good Lord.
You know you can turn the movie off or leave the room, right?
No, sir.
That's bullshit.
Death first.
Maybe it was a hostage situation. We don't know.
Locked in a battle of wills with this film.
Want to play a game?
Next one is from Ben C. So I'm assuming it's Ben Carson. He writes, pretty funny. Let me down a bit compared to their sketch comedy, but their sketches were a bit hit and miss too. 3 out of stars.
Wow. High energy as always.
Yep.
I once lost my watch in a patient.
Okay, so we got Cody W here. Such an odd movie. Such an odd comedy group. Not bad, but very weird indeed. 3.5 out of stars.
Okay.
All right.
All right, I've got one more. It's from Peter C. Funny the whole way through and fun to watch, but there's a decline as it goes along. Starts off shaping to be one of the funniest, most original movies of its kind, and ends somewhere between the genius of Monty Python and the tumor of Broken Lizard.
Wow.
Now I'm not that far on the fuck Broken Lizard wagon, but that is the tumor of Broken Lizard just tickles me.
Okay, so this I guess my last one, and it's from Dawn A. I'm assuming that's Dawn from the movie. Brilliant movie, fantastically funny. 5 out of stars.
I was in it.
I was. They made fun of me.
From Nelson O. You would have to be a fan of the show to actually appreciate this movie a bit. Not the greatest comedy, but enough to make you chuckle for an hour and 20 minutes. 3.5 out of stars.
So yeah, that's that's our take on this. The Kids in the Hall, Brain Candy. That's the critics' take and the audience take. So I want to take this opportunity to say thank you, Ben, for coming on again and joining us for this rather patriotic, all Canadian episode.
Well, thank you for having me.
Sounded like an automated response. Thank you for having Ben.
Thank you for having Ben Wandio on your show this evening. If you would like to have him again, please press 1.
Oh, and we also we're doing this thing now, Ben. Were you involved
Oh,
with
yeah,
this?
yeah,
Well,
yeah,
you was, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
We're doing this thing right where we're talking about all the stuff that we're kind of taking in right now during this whole uncertain time as we march toward the end of this pandemic stuff, and still doing our best to keep things safe and distanced. We've been asking each other and of course all of our guests, what are you watching, bud?
What am I watching?
Kids in the Hall, brain candy.
Yeah, Kids in the Hall, brain candy,
On a
definitely.
loop.
Just constantly. I watch nothing else. I don't. I'm trying to think of movies that I've been watching lately. I watched Netflix's Shadow and Bone, which was pretty good. That's a young adult fantasy series that I quite enjoyed. It's a young adult fantasy series, so. But if you've got teenagers, or if you're just like me and just watch kids shows for fun, you'll probably enjoy it.
Okay.
There we go.
And but you there, Brendan, what are you watching, bud?
I watched a movie very similar to Kids in the Hall, brain candy. It's a movie directed by John Singleton called Rosewood.
It just like Kids in the Hall, brain candy, based on actual events.
Yep. Just like brain candy. It is a harrowing movie about this. It's about it's about a bunch of racist white people. Let's just come out and say it. Where this girl is, this woman is assaulted by this guy she's cheating on her husband with. She blames it on a black guy. Of course, this community of white people immediately believe her, and just like, it's based on a real thing, right? They go to this town and just like go after all these innocent people and terrorize them and kill them, and
you get to see Ving Rhames kick some ass, though.
Yeah, but they don't veer off into like just like an action revenge movie, which I kind of like too. It wasn't just like it was at times, but it was also like just pretty. It's not an easy watch. Ving Rhames is in it. Don Cheadle is in it. You also have Michael Rooker and
Booker T.
Booker T is not in the film, unfortunately.
The name of his horse.
Oh, his horse is named Booker T. That's right.
Yeah.
Maybe that's where he got the name. Who knows? But it is a really good movie. I will say though, it is a tough watch. It is disturbing at times. It is very brutal. It is unflinching in its violence. But it is a really good film. So if you're looking for something that's not light, check out Rosewood.
I haven't seen it since I was in university.
I just saw this. This is just a recent first time watch.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's really good. Nathan.
Yeah.
What about you, bud? What you watching, bud?
Well, because of all the slow reopenings, we've been everybody's been kind of privy to being able to watch these movies that are in theaters but also on like a home premiere. And I am I'm a fan of the horror genre, so I recently watched The Conjuring 3. The Devil Made Me Do It. It was fine. It's not a glowing review.
Is that the glimmer of a future episode I'm hearing?
Yeah, well, no, there's other entries in that universe that
other ones that we've done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we haven't even touched the first Annabelle movie, so but it's a lot more of the same type of stuff. I originally actually, when I saw the previews for it, I had thought I was like, are they finally going to do another Amityville movie, but actually have Ed and Lorraine as like kind of the protagonist? And that's not the case. It's based on another case they were involved with. There is some interesting stuff. I just don't feel that it was, I don't know, the conflict and everything in it. I was fine. The villain was good. I just don't feel that there was. I was hoping for more like ghosts, like Conjuring 2 or even the original one. This one didn't have that. It was more centered around possession. So it didn't it was a Conjuring movie, but it didn't feel necessarily like the other two.
Well,
So.
I mean, you also didn't have James Wan directing. That was a big thing.
Yeah.
Also, I was so ready for that to just be a courtroom drama. I was like, bring it on. Let's do this.
It's like the possession of Emily Rose.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's what I've been watching. Another thing that I've been watching. Well, I'm gonna let this guy promote it. So just give me one moment, and he can promote this other thing that I've been watching. So just give me one second.
Okay.
Hello, it's a good friend Montrose Monkington III here, and I do thank that smelly Nathan chap for watching my YouTube channel, Montrose Monkington TV. You don't have to be smelly like him to enjoy it, so feel free to head on over there and see some of the videos that we have posted over there. You can also be friends with me on Facebook, the Facebook group Montrose Monkington III Esquire and Friends. And then finally, you can also tweet at me on your Twitter devices at Montrose III. That's the number 3RD. Thank you. More later.
All right.
Does anyone else smell monkey in here?
Oh, don't get started. He will go off. Yeah. He'll throw a stool at you.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Do you want
forget
a
I said
fucking
anything.
monkey pie in your face?
just keep it. Yeah.
Ben, do you have anything you want to promote?
Yeah. If you're in the Edmonton area, I am going to be part of a group that is trying to fight for or trying to help represent the houseless community in Edmonton, because the Edmonton Police Service has started cutting tents and macing people who are camping out in the river valley. So we're getting started up on that. So if you're interested in helping out, I would get in touch with Edmonton Mutual Aid or Food Not Bombs, and we'd be happy to have you help us in some way. Otherwise, if you're outside of Edmonton, Food Not Bombs is an international organization, so I'd recommend getting involved with them in some way and just helping out around your community as best you can.
Cool. Very good.
Awesome.
Very good. Yeah. Brennan, can you enlighten the folks, because you have the spiel down way more than I do, where they might be able to find our stuff?
I would, but I would like to first give a hintski for next week.
You want to do that instead? Okay.
I want to give a hintski for next week's episode.
So you don't forget like you do sometimes?
I do forget sometimes.
Okay. All right. Well, interway, my friend. You'd be forgiven, though, given the fact that we're just coming off Listener's Choice Month and all that, so I would. Yeah, but anyhow.
Yeah. Okay. I cannot sanction your brand of buffoonery.
Okay. Long-time listeners might get that one right out of the gate, but that's a solid one.
You've referenced it several times as we move into summer schlockbusters.
Yes, or flopbusters, or whatever we're calling it this year.
Yeah. But yes, also you can find us all over the web. We're on all the podcast apps. We're on our home base is Age of Radio.
Big time.
We are on Twitter and Instagram at WWTT Podcast. You can find us on Facebook. Just search for What Were They Thinking. Patreon.com/WWTT Podcast. All that good stuff. TeePublic, Redbubble. Find us. Look for us. We're there.
Yeah.
But
Alrighty.
Nathan, I guess, and again, I want to thank Ben once again for being here.
Thank you.
I do want to ask you a few questions.
Oh, well, I am your source for all things Kids in the Hall. Please proceed.
Oh, fuck it. It's Canada Day. They were thinking, good job.
Thanks, eh?
Happy Canada Day, everybody.
Happy Canuckastana Day.